It's Monday, October 7th, 2024. Back to Butler, Tim Walz goes on Fox News while Kamala malfunctions, and the most on-brand ruling class line you'll ever hear, next on the AM Update. Donald Trump returned on Saturday to the Pennsylvania fairgrounds where he was nearly assassinated in July, urging a large crowd to deliver an election day victory that he tied to his survival of the shooting. Former president and Republican nominee picked up where he left off in July when a gunman's bullet struck his ear.
And as I was saying,
he then gestured towards that immigration chart he was looking at when the gunfire began. The Trump campaign worked, of course, to maximize the event's headline-grabbing potential with just 30 days to go and voting already underway in some states in his race against the Democrat opponent Kamala. Lee Greenwood was at the event along with billionaire Elon Musk. It was a really star-studded event. Pictures show tens of thousands of people in attendance at that rally. Secret Service security was in high gear. That's always good to see. Just an amazing sight and sound out of Butler, Pennsylvania. Donald Trump returning to the very location where he was shot in the head. Democrat vice presidential candidate Tim Walz went on Fox News on Sunday morning and had a 15-minute conversation. He's actually increasing his national media interviews. I wonder why that's the case. Here he is talking about the various lies and obfuscations that he's been caught in the middle of.
I want to give you a chance, because you called yourself a knucklehead this week, to talk about some of your misstatements. Yeah. You've modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF to have your beautiful children, Gus and Hope, being in Hong Kong and China in the summer of 1989 during the Tiananmen events. A lot of people would say they couldn't get away with saying, I'm just too passionate, my grammar's not right, I'm a knucklehead. What do you say to the American people who think, I don't know that I can trust this guy with all those modifications to be the potential commander-in-chief of this country?
Yeah, well, I think they heard me. They heard me the other night speaking passionately about gun violence and misspeaking. And I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist those things. Look, I speak passionately. I had an entire career, decades before I was in public office. They know, and I'm very proud of my 24 years in service and my record. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. They disparage everyone. The personal attacks. I will own up when I misspeak. I will own up when I make a mistake.
So that is Minnesota Governor and Democrat VP nominee Tim Walz on Fox News Sunday just yesterday. He says in one sentence he doesn't think people care about his various lies and misstatements, and then 25 seconds later he says he always owns up when he misspeaks. Okay. At a rally in Michigan the other day, Kamala Harris had her teleprompter malfunction, which means she malfunctioned too.
Remember his number, 32. Today we got 32 days until the election. So 32 days.
She doesn't know what to do.
32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days.
She's just repeating the same thing over and over again because the teleprompter broke. So she doesn't know what to do. She can't just speak off the cuff.
And we know we will do it. And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog. And we know we have some hard work ahead.
That is the Michael Scott candidate right there. Sometimes she'll start a sentence and she doesn't know where it's going. She just hopes to find it somewhere along the way. Joe Biden at the White House actually upstaged a Kamala Harris rally when he took the stage in the White House press room for the first time in his presidency. Here he is talking about whether 2024 and the election will be peaceful.
Two separate questions. I'm confident it'll be free and fair. I don't know whether it'll be peaceful.
Is that a threat? You might think the mind of the left would be, well, we've got 95% of social media companies captured. We control basically 95% of the media that you see on your phones every single day. You might think they'd be content with that. Well, you would be wrong. Here is former Democrat presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton on CNN talking about how she wants social media companies to censor Americans.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
So that is former Democrat presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton talking about how she wants to repeal Section 230 and make sure that social media companies are censoring Americans' content that they either post or consume. Really what she's talking about there is X. That is the only major social media company that is not totally given over to leftist control. That's the only one. You'd think they'd be content with all of the other social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They've got those in the bag. But no, there's one fly in the ointment. So that means they have to go balls to the wall to make sure they smash out any attempt at dissent whatsoever. That is the mind of the leftist right there. If you want to hear the most on-brand sentence ever uttered by your ruling class, here is Lindsey Graham on Fox News late last week, responding to the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Here's what he had to say.
You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for that.
But look, I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making.
Yeah, look at this. We've got this disaster in my own backyard. But look at a foreign country. Look at them. Yeah, my own constituents are flooding and underwater and without power. But look at Israel. Look at the foreigners. That is the most on-brand thing. Speaking of, it's not just Lindsey Graham. Kamala Harris actually sent out a tweet over the weekend talking about how the administration is providing $157 million for the people of Lebanon because of a humanitarian crisis over there. Talk about not reading the room. Now, this is likely to make your blood boil. Federal judge just sentenced Republican County Clerk Tina Peters of Colorado to 9 years in prison for accessing a Dominion voting machine in an attempt to audit the vote. Listen to this judge and the hatred and disdain in his voice. This is Colorado Judge Matthew Barrett, who just sentenced Tina Peters to 9 years in prison. 9 years in prison for a 70-year-old.
It's just more lies. No objective person believes them. No, at the end of the day, you cared about the jets, the podcasts, and the people fawning over you. You abdicated your position as a servant to the Constitution, and you chose you over all else. Yes, you are a charlatan, and you cannot help but lie as easy it is for you to breathe. You betrayed your oath for no one other than you. And this is what makes Miss Peters such a danger to our community. It's the position she held that has provided her the pulpit from which she can preach these lies. The undermining of our democratic process, the undermining of the belief and confidence in our election systems. It's not about questioning it. No one says you can't question, you can't ask. It's completely different. And if you don't understand that distinction, then there's nothing I can say or do here today that will change your mind. So the damage that is caused and continue to be caused is just as bad, if not worse, than the physical violence that this court sees on an all too regular basis.
That is Colorado Judge Matthew Barrett, who has sentenced Tina Peters, a county clerk from Colorado, to 9 years in prison, all for the crime of accessing Dominion, that's the voting machine company, accessing Dominion voting machines in an attempt to audit the vote. Trying to do her job, basically. Tina Peters, Gold Star mom, law-abiding citizen, 70 years old. And that judge, you can hear the disdain and hatred in his voice. calling her a charlatan, basically sentenced her to die in jail. This country, if we're not on the brink, we're over it. And finally, ending on a lighter note, Saturday Night Live's Cold Open panned the vice presidential debate featuring Jim Gaffigan as Tim Walz.
We now turn to the gotcha portion of the debate. Senator Vance, you called Donald Trump America's Hitler. Do you regret that?
Well, the context matters. I meant that as a compliment.
Wow, this guy's good. He's got an answer for everything.
Thank you. That's quite kind.
Hey, you're welcome.
Okay, I'm not sure why you two are connecting, but let's move on. Governor Walz, you claimed you were in Hong Kong during the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre when you were home in Minnesota. Can you explain that?
So I think what happened is I went to Epcot. You can go around the whole world, and I had a couple in the Germany section, and I thought I went to China. Anyway, I'm a knucklehead.
So that is part of Saturday Night Live's Cold Open featuring comedian Jim Gaffigan as Tim Walz. That'll do it for Monday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.